Hi, I'm Dr. Darin Detwiler, and I'm with Amy Philpott. Amy, thank you for joining us. What are we going to be talking about in this segment?
Hi, Darin. In this segment, I'm going to talk about risk communication principles. I do 3-day workshops on recall communications. So I have kept it very short. Everything you need to know for this particular discussion is right here on this slide. Behind each of these bullet points is an hour or two discussion. But in short, we want to communicate to reflect the level of risk. Don't over communicate risk, don't under communicate risk. Okay. And to do that, it's important to understand the risk, which means as communicators, we have to have a very close working relationship with the risk managers and the risk assessors. So the people who know the risk and the hazard best are the people we need to work very closely with. You cannot communicate about a recall in a silo. You have to communicate with the people who are actually mitigating the risk, who were trying to prevent it in the first place before it happened, and the ones who are looking at what went wrong. That will all help you to be accurate and as fast as possible, but not fast at the expense of accuracy. And this is a constant struggle during recall communications or during any type of risk communication. The balance between being fast and being accurate. Okay. So do your best to do both. Being honest and transparent, understanding who is at risk, and then meet them where they are already getting their food safety information. So understanding if it is a bilingual community or a only Spanish speaking community, or children whose parents, because you're going to talk, if the children are too young, you'll talk to their parents. Elderly audiences, you may talk to caregivers, right? So understand who it is you need to talk to inform about how to reduce or mitigate the risk. And then find out where they already get that information. And I see this all the time. We have to issue a press release in a class 1 recall situation. So many times the temptation is issue the press release largely to English speaking news outlets. And then we're done. We've notified the public. But in the case of the 2016 salmonella outbreak that started off as a tomato issue, but then they found out it wasn't really tomatoes, it was jalapeno peppers. The lack of communication to the Spanish-speaking news outlets was notable. And yet jalapeno peppers, it isn't that non-Hispanics don't eat jalapeno peppers, but if you're going to target people who might likely consume jalapeno peppers, you have to look at Spanish-speaking news outlets. So understand who you're trying to reach, because this will be a two-way communication. We don't just send the notice out and then we're done. We have to be prepared for receiving questions and comments back. So it's two-way. And then finally, the content of what we provide needs to address the concerns of the people we're talking to. So yes, companies want to get their message out, and I promote that. It's important for companies to get their message out about what they're doing and about how they're working hard to prevent this from happening again. That's all important, but it is not the most important message, because you have to address your audience's concern first. Okay. You cannot just talk to yourself and distribute your messages and ignore what the listener wants to hear. And what they want to know first is, what is the risk and how do I mitigate it or reduce the risk to me and my family and friends? That's what they want to know. So provide that first. In some cases, you may not know that information, or you may not know all of that information. And in that case, just be prepared for people to be upset with you. And I'll give you an example, because you may be asking yourself, well, in what situation would that happen? This happens quite often with bulk items, bulk produce, bulk nuts, bulk dried fruit, in the bins, for example, or more recently, bulk cucumbers, for example, where the grower issued the recall, but the grower had no idea where the product went. There were at least 6 people between the farmer and the consumer, and every time it hit a customer, it went in multiple directions. So the farmer could say that the cucumbers were being recalled because of E. coli, but the farmer couldn't say where it was sold. So a consumer would call the farmer and ask, okay, well, I understand this is a risk. I want to know if the cucumbers in my refrigerator are affected, and were they sold at my grocery store down the street? And the truth was, the very honest, transparent truth was, the grower didn't know. And so there was a lot of reputational and public relations damage done to that grower's farm and the name, because they were being criticized for not knowing. So that's just one example.
Sure. Well, I mean, you look at, some retailers will have bins full of peanuts. How
Yeah.
can you tell if they're all from the same company, or even if they are from the same company, are they all from the same location? There's other questions like, how would you know? Do you have these peanuts? I don't even know what company's behind these peanuts. They're just peanuts. I
Yeah.
actually know a doctor I had a conversation with years ago, and he was saying how he has patients, usually like, open heart surgery or, major surgery,
Mhm.
where they are clearly going to be a most vulnerable population for, their compromised immune system kind of situation. And he will say, like, don't ever buy anything in bulk. You buy things that are clearly packaged, there's lot number, there's dates, there's company contact information. You keep that receipt. You buy things in small batches. Ideally, you buy things that are kosher because they've gone through additional steps. But the last thing you want to do is to buy anything bulk. Even if you're going to save a lot of money, you're going to be buying a lot of confusion, heartache, and frustration, because you'll have no idea if that food is implicated in any kind of class of a recall.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And as you were talking, it reminded me that that would be a very good case in which perhaps the agency, it's peanuts, so it would be FDA, would issue additional information, right? Because after the recall is announced, the agency can go back and, through their traceability, start to identify retailers. The problem is, Darin, that comes way too late.
Yeah, yeah,
Way too late.
always.